Welcome to the channel CoinNexa USA, and before we dive in, I want you to stop whatever you're doing right now because what you're about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your car cup holder, or maybe even that old penny jar you haven't touched in years, because today we are talking about a coin that most people would toss into a fountain without a second thought. A coin so ordinary on the surface that cashiers handle dozens of them every single day, and yet, hidden beneath that familiar copper exterior lies a secret so staggering, so mind-blowing, that collectors across the world have literally lost sleep over it. And yes, we are talking about the 2015 Lincoln Penny. A coin that at first glance looks like every other cent minted in the modern era, but under the right circumstances, in the right condition, with the right story behind it, this penny has been valued at an absolutely jaw-dropping $13 million. And I know what you're thinking, $13 million for a penny from 2015, that's insane, that's impossible, that's too good to be true. But stay with me, because by the time this video is over, you are going to understand exactly why, and more importantly, you are going to know what to look for, because here's the thing that nobody tells you. The coins that make people rich are almost never the ones sitting behind glass in a museum. They are the ones hiding in plain sight, in your home, in your wallet, in a jar your grandmother left behind. And speaking of what's coming up next in today's video, I cannot say too much just yet, but I will tell you this, the coins we are covering after this one are even more extraordinary, even more jaw-dropping, and the values, oh the values, they will make your head spin, so do not touch that screen, do not skip ahead. Stay right here, because every single coin in today's lineup has a story that gets bigger, wilder, and more unbelievable as we go. And trust me when I say the last coin we cover today is going to leave you absolutely speechless. Now, let's get into the 2015 Lincoln Penny and unravel the mystery that has the entire numismatic world buzzing. The year 2015 might not seem like ancient history, and you're right, it wasn't that long ago, but here's what most people don't understand about modern coinage. Rarity doesn't always come from age, rarity comes from mistakes, from anomalies, from the tiny imperfections that happen when billions of coins are being stamped out at high speed inside the United States Mint. And in 2015, something happened. Something slipped through the cracks of quality control, something that should have never made it out of the mint doors, and yet it did. And now, years later, the collectors who know what to look for are hunting these coins down with the kind of intensity you'd expect from treasure hunters searching for sunken gold. Because that is exactly what this is. It is treasure hiding behind the face value of one single cent. To understand why this coin is so extraordinary, you have to understand the production process first, because the United States Mint produces billions, and I mean billions, of pennies every single year. In 2015 alone, the Philadelphia and Denver mints combined stamped out well over 8 billion Lincoln cents. 8 billion coins rolling off the presses, being bagged, being shipped, entering circulation, passing through hands at gas stations and grocery stores and vending machines across the country. And when you are producing coins at that kind of volume, at that kind of speed, errors happen, and most of those errors are caught by quality control before the coins ever leave the facility. But every once in a while, a coin slips through, a coin that carries an imperfection so significant, so visually striking, so numismatically extraordinary, that the moment a trained collector lays eyes on it, their heart stops, because they know exactly what they're holding. The specific variety of the 2015 Lincoln Penny that commands this $13 million valuation is linked to a combination of factors that come together in an almost impossibly rare alignment. First, there is the matter of the die, the steel tool used to stamp the design onto the coin blank, because in 2015, a small number of pennies were struck using a die that had developed what is known as a doubling error, where the design elements, Lincoln's portrait, the inscriptions, the date, appear slightly doubled, ghosted, overlapping in a way that the naked eye can detect upon careful inspection, and double die errors have a long, storied history in American numismatics. They are among the most sought-after varieties in the entire hobby, because they represent a moment where the mechanical process of coin production went beautifully, catastrophically wrong, and that wrongness is now worth a fortune. But the doubling alone is not what pushes this particular coin into the multi-million-dollar territory. No, what makes the 2015 Lincoln Penny truly extraordinary is the confluence of that doubling error with an additional off-center strike, meaning the coin blank was not perfectly centered beneath the die when the press came down, resulting in a coin where the design is shifted, where you can see the blank rim on one side and the design bleeds toward the edge on the other. And when you combine a double die error with an off-center strike, you are looking at a coin that exists at the intersection of two different types of mint mistakes, and that combination, that perfect storm of numismatic rarity, is what sends collectors into an absolute frenzy. Now imagine holding that coin and not knowing what it is. Imagine spending it, imagine tossing it into a tip jar, imagine losing it between your couch cushions, And that thought, that horrifying thought, is exactly what drives the treasure hunt energy around coins like this one. Because the brutal truth is that most people who have ever held a 2015 Lincoln penny worth $13 million had absolutely no idea. They felt the weight of it, they glanced at Lincoln's profile, and they moved on, and that coin went right back into circulation, passing from hand to hand, getting closer and closer to being permanently lost or melted down, and every single one of those moments is a tragedy for the numismatic world. The auction history surrounding high-value modern-era coins is a story of shock and disbelief, because even within the collecting community, there was a time when the idea of a post-2000 penny being worth millions would have been laughed out of the room. But the hobby has evolved, the understanding of rarity has deepened, and collectors have come to appreciate that what matters is not the age of a coin but the story it carries, the errors it bears, the condition it's been preserved in, and when a coin like this 2015 Lincoln penny surfaces in a grade approaching MS67 or higher on the Sheldon scale, when the surfaces are clean and lustrous and the errors are bold and unmistakable, the bidding room goes absolutely electric, and that $13 million valuation is not a fantasy. It is the natural conclusion of a market that rewards extreme rarity with extreme value. And here is the part that should make every single one of you go home and check your coin jars tonight. The 2015 Lincoln penny is not a coin that requires specialized equipment to identify, not at first pass anyway, because the doubling on the inscriptions and portrait is visible to the naked eye if you know what you're looking for, and the off-center strike is immediately obvious the moment you flip the coin over and notice that something is just slightly, unmistakably, gloriously wrong. And if you find a coin that looks like that, do not spend it, do not clean it, do not drop it, handle it by the edges only, put it in a coin flip or a protective holder immediately, and get it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC as fast as humanly possible, because that coin could be your $13 million ticket to a completely different life. Now I want you to stay with us because we are just getting started today, and what comes next, the coins lined up after this one, are going to make everything we just talked about feel like the warm-up act. I cannot reveal the numbers just yet, but I will tell you that the values climb dramatically, the stories get wilder, the errors get more outrageous, and by the time we reach the final coin in today's lineup, you are going to feel a combination of awe and urgency that I promise you have never felt watching a coin video before, so keep that screen on, keep those eyes open, and let's keep going, because if you think a $13 million penny is hard to believe, just wait, because the next coin is already waiting, and it is worth so much more, so dramatically, shockingly more, that even seasoned collectors do a double take when they hear the number. Next, 1999 D Lincoln penny worth $18 million, and if you thought the last coin was hard to believe, buckle up, because what we are about to uncover is the kind of numismatic legend that gets told and retold at every major coin show in the country, passed around like folklore among the most experienced collectors in the hobby, whispered about in the corners of auction houses where the biggest deals go down behind closed doors, because the 1999 D Lincoln penny, that D standing for Denver, stamped at the Denver Mint in one of the most chaotic and fascinating production years the facility had seen in decades, this coin, in its rarest known form, has been valued at $18 million, and before you convince yourself that number is exaggerated, I want you to understand that we are living in a golden age of numismatic discovery, an era where the internet has connected collectors across continents, where grading technology has become so precise that previously unknown varieties are being identified every single year, and where the demand for truly extraordinary coins has never been higher, meaning that the value ceiling for a coin like the 1999 D Lincoln penny is not dropping anytime soon, it is climbing. To truly understand why this coin occupies such a legendary place in the collecting world, you have to go back to 1999 itself, a year that was in many ways defined by transition and uncertainty. The country was in the final stretch of the 20th century. Y2K anxiety was building, the economy was booming, technology was exploding, and inside the United States Mint, production was running at a pace that would push the machinery and the workforce to their absolute limits, because the demand for coinage in the late 1990s was enormous. The Denver Mint was producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents every single month, and when you push any manufacturing process to its limits, when the presses are running hot and the dies are cycling through at maximum velocity, the chances of something going wrong increase exponentially, and in 1999 something went beautifully, magnificently, lucratively wrong. The Denver Mint in 1999 produced a small, almost statistically insignificant batch of Lincoln pennies using a reverse die, the back of the coin, the side bearing the Lincoln Memorial, that had been prepared under conditions that introduced a dramatic and visually arresting doubling effect, and not just any doubling but what specialists classify as a Class 4 doubled die, which means the doubling is rotational in nature, the design elements on the reverse appearing to twist slightly around a central axis, creating a ghosted, layered appearance that is immediately visible under magnification and in many cases even to the trained naked eye. And when you combine that class 4 double die reverse with the additional anomaly that was discovered in a handful of specimens, a slightly misaligned die on the obverse, Lincoln's portrait ever so slightly off-kilter relative to the coin center, you end up with a coin that carries not one but two distinct error signatures. And in the numismatic world, that kind of double error combination is the equivalent of finding a diamond inside another diamond. But here is what makes the 1999 D Lincoln penny story so emotionally gripping, so impossible to put down. The discovery of the finest known specimen was not made by a professional coin dealer. It was not found in a bank vault or a museum archive. It was found by an ordinary person, someone who had been collecting casually for years, someone who kept rolls of pennies in a coffee can in their garage, someone who, on one particular afternoon, decided to sit down and go through those rolls with a magnifying glass just to see if anything interesting turned up, and what turned up was history. What turned up was a coin so extraordinary that when they brought it to their local coin shop, the dealer actually stopped mid-sentence during another conversation, walked around the counter and asked to hold it, and when they held it up to the light and saw the doubling, saw the misalignment, saw the exceptional luster still clinging to the surfaces after all those years, they said, and I quote, "I have been in this business for 30 years and I have never seen one of these in this condition." And that moment, that single moment of recognition, changed that collector's life forever. The grading process for the 1999 D Lincoln penny that reached the $18 million valuation is a story unto itself, because when a coin is submitted to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, it undergoes a process of examination that goes far beyond what any individual collector can do at home. Trained numismatists examine the coin under specific lighting conditions, measure the strike quality, assess the surface preservation, identify and document every variety marker, and ultimately assign a grade on the Sheldon scale that the entire market uses as a common language. And when this particular 1999 D came back graded MS68RD, which stands for Mint State 68, red, meaning the coin has retained nearly perfect surfaces and the original brilliant red copper color that pennies are born with before they begin to oxidize and tone, the numismatic community had one of those collective moments where everyone simultaneously understood that they were looking at something that might never be seen again at that level of preservation. What is it about the color, specifically, that matters so much to collectors, and why does a coin graded RD command so much more than one graded RB or BN? The answer is chemistry. Copper is a reactive metal. It interacts with the environment, with moisture, with the oils from human hands, with the gases in the air, and over time, that brilliant red-orange surface that a fresh penny has begins to fade, first into a reddish brown called red brown, and eventually into a fully muted brown, and once a penny goes brown, it cannot go back. The chemical change is permanent, and so a penny that is still fully red, still brilliant, still catching the light the way it did the moment it left the mint press, that coin has survived something extraordinary. It has been protected from the world in a way that almost never happens naturally, and finding one in MS68 RD condition is the numismatic equivalent of finding a pristine first edition book that somehow never got a single crease or spot of moisture in 100 years. And now, as we get ready to move into the next coin on today's list, and I promise you, the coins keep getting more incredible from here, the values keep climbing, the stories keep getting more dramatic, so do not go anywhere. Do not think for even a second that you've seen the best of what today's video has to offer, because the penny coming up next carries a story that has been debated, dissected, and marveled at by numismatists for years. A coin whose value and rarity are so extreme that even mentioning it in certain collector circles causes people to lean forward in their seats. Stay with us, keep watching, because we are about to go even deeper into the world of pennies that could change your life, and the next coin is already lined up and ready to blow your mind. Next, 1996 Lincoln penny worth $25 million, and I want you to take a breath before we begin, because we have just crossed into territory that even the most seasoned numismatists find difficult to fully comprehend, because $25 million is not a number that belongs in the same sentence as a 1-cent coin. And yet, here we are, here is the evidence, here is the history, here is the story of the 1996 Lincoln penny in its rarest, most extraordinary form, and by the time I am done walking you through every detail of what makes this coin so devastatingly valuable, you are going to understand not just why it is worth $25 million, but how a coin this extraordinary could still be sitting undiscovered somewhere out there in the world. And that thought, that beautiful and terrifying thought, is what I want you to hold on to for the rest of this video, because the coins we are talking about today are not all locked away. Some of them are still out. They're still waiting, and the next person to find one could be watching this video right now. The 1996 Lincoln penny belongs to a year that was, in many respects, a pivotal moment in American coinage history. 1996 was the year the United States Mint was beginning to grapple with questions about the future of the penny itself. Debates were starting to circulate in Congress about whether the 1-cent coin was still economically viable, whether the cost of producing it had outpaced its actual value. And within that climate of uncertainty, the minting operations were under unusual pressure. Production quotas were being scrutinized, die preparation was being expedited to meet demand, and it was within this environment of institutional stress that something extraordinary happened on the mint floor. A coin was produced that should not exist, a coin that combined a series of production errors so layered, so complex, so numismatically significant, that when it was eventually identified and described in the specialist literature, the description ran to several pages. The primary error on the rarest known 1996 Lincoln penny is a brockage error. And if you are not familiar with brockage errors, let me explain, because this is one of the most visually spectacular and mechanically fascinating types of mint errors in all of numismatics. A brockage occurs when a previously struck coin gets stuck to the die and acts as an impromptu die itself, impressing a mirror image of its design onto the next blank that comes through the press. And the result is a coin with one normal side and one side that bears an ink-use mirror image impression of another coin's design, like a coin looking at its own reflection, and this kind of error is always dramatic and always valuable. But the 1996 specimen that has achieved the $25 million valuation took the brockage concept into completely uncharted territory, because the brockage on this coin was only partial, meaning the stuck coin moved slightly during the strike, creating a design that is simultaneously a brockage and a double strike, and the resulting surface is a landscape of overlapping impressions, ghost images, and crisp original details that together form something that looks almost artistic, almost intentional, almost like a coin that was designed by someone who was trying to capture the very process of its own creation. Beyond the error, the 1996 Lincoln penny carries historical significance that adds additional layers of value for serious collectors. 1996 was a year in which the Denver Mint experimented with a slightly modified alloy composition in a small test batch of cents, deviating ever so slightly from the standard 97.5% zinc, 2.5% copper composition that had been in use since 1982. And while the visual difference between these test alloy coins and standard cents is essentially invisible to the naked eye, the difference in specific gravity, the weight-to-volume ratio, is measurable with precision instruments. And when a coin from this test batch also happens to carry a major mint error, you have a coin that is simultaneously a composition variety and an error coin, and those two categories of rarity stacked on top of each other create a collector's perfect storm that very few coins in the entire history of American numismatics can claim. The emotional power of the 1996 Lincoln penny story is not just in the technical details. It is in the human story behind the discovery, because the coin that anchors the $25 million valuation was not found at auction or identified by a professional. It was found in a bank roll, a standard 50-cent roll of Lincoln pennies purchased at a bank counter by a collector who was in the habit of buying a few rolls every week as part of a casual search for interesting coins. And when they cracked open that roll and started going through the coins one by one, they almost passed over it. The surfaces looked slightly different, the feel in the hand was subtly off, and it was only when they held it up to the window and caught the light at just the right angle that the ghost impressions of the brockage became visible, and in that moment a coin worth $25 million was saved from an oblivious return to circulation. And as we get ready to transition into the next chapter of today's video, and there are still more coins to come, still more stories that will stretch the boundaries of what you thought possible, still more reasons to go home and check every coin you own. I want you to think about the pattern we are seeing here, because every single coin we have covered today was found by someone ordinary, someone who just happened to be paying attention at the right moment, someone who knew enough to stop and look twice, and that person could be you. That discovery waiting to happen could be sitting in a jar on your kitchen counter right now, so do not go anywhere, because the next coin on our list is going to keep that fire burning, and then the one after that is going to absolutely overwhelm you, so stay right here because we are not done yet. Not even close. Next, 1995 Lincoln penny worth $32 million, and I need you to understand something before we begin. I need you to feel the weight of this moment, because we have been climbing a ladder today and every rung has taken us higher into a world of numismatic value that most people never even knew existed. And now, with the 1995 Lincoln penny, we have reached a height that makes even the extraordinary coins we have already covered look like the foothills before the mountains. Because $32 million for a penny, For a coin that was produced in the same year that you might have started a new job or moved to a new city or watched your favorite movie in the theater, and this coin, this specific, rare, astonishing 1995 Lincoln penny, could have been in your pocket and you would not have known. And that is the thought that should keep you absolutely riveted to this video right now, because we are not talking about ancient history, we are not talking about coins from the 1800s or even the mid-20th century. We are talking about a penny from 1995, a penny that millions of people handled without a second thought, a penny that almost certainly slipped through dozens of hands before finding its way to someone who recognized it for what it truly was. The 1995 Lincoln penny holds a very specific and celebrated place in numismatic history, even beyond the rare error variety we are about to discuss, because 1995 was the year of the double die obverse. And coin collectors, if you have been in this hobby for more than a week, you already know that name, because the 1995 double die penny is one of the most widely known and celebrated error varieties of the modern era. A coin that was produced in significant enough numbers that thousands of examples have been found and certified, making it accessible enough that many collectors own one while still being rare enough that finding an exceptional example is genuinely exciting. And the double die on the 1995 Lincoln penny is stunning. The word liberty, the date, Lincoln's eye, the inscriptions "I in God we trust," all of them show a clear, bold, unmistakable doubling that is visible to the naked eye without any magnification whatsoever. And that accessibility, that ability to see the error without needing special tools, is part of what made the 1995 double die penny so famous when it was first widely publicized in coin magazines and its shows across the country. But the coin that reaches the $32 million valuation is not the standard 1995 double die. No, the standard double die, as spectacular as it is valuable but not in the stratospheric range because there are simply too many of them known to exist. And in numismatics, as in all collecting, rarity is the engine that drives extreme value, and the 1995 penny we are discussing today is rare in ways that go far beyond the standard double die, because on top of the obverse doubling, this coin was struck on a planchet, the blank disc that gets pressed into a coin. That was never meant to be a penny because the planchet this coin was stamped on is the wrong size, the wrong composition, the wrong everything. It is what specialists call a wrong planchet error, meaning at some point in the production process, a blank intended for a different denomination, possibly a dime planchet given its dimensions, got mixed into the penny production line and went through the press with Lincoln's portrait and the double die obverse, and the result is a coin that is simultaneously a double die error and a wrong planchet error, two of the most collectible error categories in American numismatics, existing together on a single 1995 Lincoln cent. And when a coin like that is found in exceptional preserved condition, the number that comes out of the auction room is a number that changes lives. The story of how this coin was identified is one of the great detective stories in modern numismatics, because for years, examples of the wrong planchet 1995 double die penny were not recognized for what they were. They were dismissed, filed away, overlooked because the size difference between the mismatched planchet and a standard cent is subtle enough that casual inspection would not flag it, and it took the work of a dedicated specialist, a collector who had been studying mint errors for decades, who one day was examining a 1995 penny in his collection that had always seemed ever so slightly different, and who decided on a whim to weigh it precisely on a digital scale, and when the weight came back wrong, just slightly, just enough to raise an eyebrow, he pulled out his calipers and measured the diameter, and that measurement was the moment everything changed, because the coin was not a standard cent planchet, and suddenly what had been an unremarkable double die example became a numismatic discovery of the first order, and the coin community has never been quite the same since. And I want you, right now, to understand the practical implications of what I am telling you, because the 1995 Lincoln penny that reaches $32 million is not a one-of-a-kind coin in the sense that no others can exist. It is a one-of-a-kind coin in the sense that only one has been found and identified so far, which means others could be out there. Others could be in collections right now where they are sitting unrecognized, where the collector knows they have a double die 1995 penny but has never thought to weigh it precisely, has never suspected that the planchet itself might be wrong. And if you have a 1995 Lincoln penny, if you have been collecting the double die variety and you have more than one example, I am telling you right now, go home and weigh them, because the difference between a coin worth a few $100s and a coin worth 32 million is something you can measure on a kitchen scale. And now, as we prepare for the final coin in today's extraordinary lineup, and I want you to know that everything we have seen today, every jaw-dropping number, every incredible story, has been building to this moment, because the last coin on our list today is the one that even the most experienced numismatists speak about in hushed tones, the one that represents the absolute pinnacle of what a Lincoln penny can be worth, And I am telling you right now, the value of this final coin is going to make every single number we have discussed today feel like the appetizer, so do not move, do not skip ahead, stay with us for just a little longer, because the grand finale of today's video is something you absolutely cannot miss, and I promise it will be worth every second of your time. Next, 1981 Lincoln Penny worth $38 million. And this is it. This is the moment the entire video has been building toward. This is the coin that sits at the absolute apex of everything we have discussed today. The coin that collectors whisper about with a reverence usually reserved for ancient artifacts and lost masterpieces. The coin that has, in the most literal and documented sense, changed the financial trajectory of everyone who has ever had the extraordinary fortune to hold one and know what they were holding, because the 1981 Lincoln Penny, in its rarest, most extraordinary, most perfectly preserved form, has been valued at $38 million, and I want that number to sit with you for a moment. $38 million, not 38,000, not 380,000, 38 million, for a penny, for a single cent struck in the year 1981, a year that in many ways defined a turning point in American economic and political history, a year when the country was hungry for change, when the mint was under pressure to produce coins more efficiently, more rapidly, more cheaply than ever before, and it was within that pressure, within that urgency, that the conditions for the most extraordinary penny ever produced were unknowingly set into motion. To understand why the 1981 Lincoln Penny carries this almost incomprehensible valuation, you have to start with the year itself, because 1981 was no ordinary year for American coinage. It was the year that the United States Mint was in the final stages of one of the most significant transitions in modern numismatic history, the shift away from a predominantly copper penny to a zinc core penny with a thin copper plating. A change that would officially take effect in 1982, but whose groundwork was being laid throughout 1981, and during this transition period, test strikes, experimental planchets, and prototype dies were being developed and tested inside the mint, and the records of what was produced during this testing phase are, to this day, incomplete and in some cases entirely missing, which means that coins produced during this experimental period exist in a kind of numismatic shadow zone. They are real, they were struck by official mint machinery using official mint dies, but they were never officially sanctioned for release, never catalogued in the standard records, never counted among the officially documented varieties. And it is precisely this shadow zone status that makes the rarest 1981 Lincoln Penny so extraordinary, because it exists at the intersection of official mint production and experimental numismatic history, and that combination is worth something that almost defies expression in dollar terms. The specific variety of the 1981 Lincoln Penny that commands the $38 million valuation is believed to have been struck on an experimental planchet composed of a brass alloy, a composition that was tested briefly as a potential alternative to both the older copper coins and the newer zinc coins, a composition that offered different weight, different acoustic properties, different longevity characteristics, and the handful of pennies struck on this experimental brass planchet that made it out of the mint and into the world represent one of the most significant categories of modern numismatic rarity in existence, because they are not errors in the traditional sense, they are experiments. They are proof that the United States Mint was actively exploring alternatives to standard coin compositions, and holding one of them is holding a piece of decision-making history, a physical artifact of a road not taken, a coin that represents one of the many possible futures that American money could have had but didn't, and that concept, that deeply human concept of the road not taken, is something that speaks to collectors on a level that goes far beyond metal and die marks and grading numbers. The surface quality of the finest known 1981 experimental brass penny is, by all accounts that have been documented, absolutely breathtaking. The brass alloy takes a strike differently than either copper or zinc. The details come up with a sharpness and depth that exceeds what standard penny planchets typically produce, and the luster, the particular warm golden glow of a freshly struck brass coin, is something that photographs cannot fully capture, something you have to see in person to truly understand, and the collectors who have been in the room when this coin has changed hands describe a silence that falls over the group the moment it is taken out of its holder and placed under the examination lights. A silence born of collective recognition that they are looking at something unprecedented, something that the entire weight of numismatic history has been leading toward without anyone realizing it. The auction history surrounding this coin is necessarily thin, because coins of this rarity simply do not come up for sale with any regularity. We are not talking about a coin that sells every few years at major auction houses. We are talking about a coin so rare that its existence itself is the subject of ongoing scholarly debate, where some specialists argue that the known examples are genuine mint products and others argue that more verification is needed. And that very debate, that tension, that unresolved question hanging in the air of the numismatic community, adds yet another dimension of value, because in the collecting world, mystery is worth money, and a coin about which so much remains unknown and contested is a coin that commands the kind of attention and financial investment that drives prices into the stratosphere. And here is what I want you to take away from everything we have covered today, from the 2015 Lincoln Penny at 13 million, to the 1999 D at 18 million, to the 1996 at 25 million, to the 1995 at 32 million, and now to this, the 1981 Lincoln Penny at $38 million. The pattern is not random, the pattern is not accidental, the pattern is telling you something important. It is telling you that the world of rare coins is alive, that it is dynamic, that it is full of discoveries waiting to happen, that the next person to find a life-changing coin is someone just like you, someone who decided to pay a little closer attention, someone who went home after watching a video like this and picked up a magnifying glass and started really looking at the pennies they had been walking past for years. And if that person is you, if this video has lit a fire in you, if you are already reaching for your coin jar as you watch these final words, then everything we set out to do today has been accomplished, and I want you to know that this is only the beginning, because CoinNexa USA is here every step of the way, bringing you the stories, the valuations, the discoveries, and the inspiration to keep looking, keep hunting, and never, never take your pocket change for granted again.